What's up, everybody? Nick Piles, publisher of 1851franchise.com, here with another episode of Meet the Zor. If you like these videos, click subscribe, and you can watch many of our stories about franchise brands, which will help you on your journey to figuring out which one you want to buy. Today, we are talking DocuLock. Come on next. All right, Paul, I'm going to have you frame your story first, then we'll get into the brand. But how did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise story?
Well, it wasn't accidental in my case. It definitely was by design. With DocuLock, not go down too many rabbit holes here, but we do document scanning and archiving. And we initially just had our corporate location until everybody's favorite year of 2020. And I ended up having to have open heart surgery at the ripe age of 46, had quintuple bypass. That was lots of fun. Wouldn't recommend it. And I came out of that with a new understanding of what I needed to do to offer more opportunities for people that wanted to become business owners. You know, franchising had been on the kind of on the horizon a little bit before, but this put a new impetus to it. And that's really where we started. I built everything out myself, which any attorney that's watching this is cringing, but I did the FDD and the FA on my own, and completely trashed it. Went and found an attorney that actually could fix it for me. And we were on track. Within about a year, I was able to get everything legal and up and running. So pretty exciting. I learned a ton in a very short amount of time. I had to.
All right, so a whole bunch I want to unpack from there. You're running DocuLock as a corporate location going into 2020 and your heart surgery?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And have you've thought about franchising at that point, or at that point you'd already wrote your own documents and you were technically a franchise?
No. You know, when we did, and skipping back a little bit here, we did what I call a baby Shark Tank. It was an incubator kind of Shark Tank contest, and we ended up winning that. Part of the presentation was having franchises within a short amount of time. Now, of course, I was extremely ignorant. I had no idea what I was getting into, and learned a lot since then. But no, that was not actually, nothing was done yet. So I came out of the hospital in October of 2020, spent about 2 months getting back on my feet. And then I was working January through November of 21 on building this entire system out.
Got it.
And whew, that was fun.
There's so many questions that I have on this. So did you go through the process of looking into using a consultant to help you franchise at that point? Or was it like, I'm beelining it myself?
Well, yes, I did. I looked into a couple of them. Some were very open to some general ideas and all, but they're businesses. They need to make money too. And the amount of money they were asking just did not fit into the budget I had. And so I think anyone watching this that's ever been an entrepreneur or is looking to become one, you find a way no matter what. And I went home that day, the last rejection, if you will, told my wife I'm just going to build my own. And she just said, okay, see you in a couple months. And you know, it was not without its hiccups for sure.
Yeah, and so another thing you said was basically you win the Shark Tank and you get thrown into like going down this pathway. But you said, boy, have I learned a lot. And so I go back to like before you go into that Shark Tank, your perception of what franchising was as either a franchisor or the franchisee to now, I assume it's changed drastically, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I went in thinking McDonald's, you know, and came out thinking this is way over my head. And, you know, I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of brands that would make phenomenal franchise brands never do that because of the fear of, oh my gosh, what if? And I agree with that. There's a lot of fear that you have to overcome. One of the big things that I finally have found a way to, and I'm working on it, including your team and others, is finding a group of trusted advisors I can surround myself with that know far more than I do about this. I could bring the raw ideas in and let them refine those ideas to what actually works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I'll say, I'm not going to give you all my comments on your current positioning, but one of them is, and you're not alone. So you are in the majority on this. But it's fascinating to me. All of us, my perception was McDonald's, but I didn't even know what that really meant. I didn't understand that the value of the dollar to a McDonald's franchisee is far less than that of a regular small business operator, because they're paying fees back, and obviously they get the exchange of the brand and the operations for that. And I do think there's tremendous value in that. But it's so many different layers to what franchising is. But us as franchisors, the first thing on our franchise website is buy my franchise. And so you, as a sophisticated business person, didn't understand the depth of it. And here we are talking to a franchisee who's even far less sophisticated than you and saying, buy my franchise. And so to them, we look at candidate behavior, the ghosting. Candidates are known to ghost, but it's because they get scared and they don't know what franchising is. And all franchise brands are like, here, buy my franchise. They're like, hold on a second, I got to figure this out, which is where they go back around the web and figure this out. So it's interesting because the answer is always the same, but tactically we have to give more back to the franchisee so that they have the tools and weapons to understand what franchising is.
Absolutely. You know, and there were so many different ways to approach this, from the FSO model, the independent model, going after it on my own, and I'm working on building a hybrid of all of those. One of the things I'm very proud of, I partnered about a year and it took about a year and a half to do it, but I partnered with the local D2 university. It's called Northwest Missouri State University, and they needed some added spark to their business program. And I thought, well, what if I were to offer a franchise to their top entrepreneurial student? And after we got through the legalese of all that, because I was definitely the small guy in the room, or the little dude in the room, we got that signed on. We brought we awarded our first one last year, and they are absolutely killing it. They're just south of us. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We just awarded our second one. The cool part is watching it kind of make a life of its own. The first time we had five applicants for it, because everyone's like, what the hell is this? The second time we had we had 10 applicants. So we'll see where it goes this following year. But the gentleman and his wife that we just awarded this time, he's an active duty police officer, and was looking at bringing on some additional sources of revenue. So this is not a income replacement at this point, which we build our lead generation around what they're trying to accomplish. So, we don't want to inundate them with too much stuff. They're like, that's not what I signed on for. But our first franchise, the one we brought on through the university, they're taking everything we can throw at them. They're doing great.
Did you waive the franchise fee for the person from the university?
I waived everything. I went in complete. I said, if I'm going to do this, I am not going to burden these students as they graduate with more debt. I'm not going to do that. Everyone advised me against that. I ignored all of them, because ultimately what it comes down to is, what's the mission? The mission is to help people become entrepreneurs. And if they want to do that with DocuLock, fantastic. If they want to do that with another brand, that's great too. But I want to be able to support them in growing into that without going, oh my gosh, I just came out of university, and now I'm just buried in debt. I won't be part of that. So.
Okay, so when we're done, go play back what you just said. Go on your website. Your first words on your franchise site are, own a DocuLock franchise. You just said a beautiful message. We're in the business of basically building entrepreneurs.
Right.
So you just said it. Now cross that over there. Look, I agree with you. If I go back, we've built, and this is not a pat on my back, but we've built a successful company that's been around for 15 years.
Absolutely.
I go back to when I started with less than $10,000 in the bank. And so if you would have said, could I build a multi-million-dollar business off of 10 grand, most people would have said, no way. What's disappointing about franchising is I would have been rejected as a candidate because I just didn't have the cash or the resources. And so I think some of the best currency, especially early on, is grit and hustle. And what you just said is, I hear all these people that want to give advice from their ivory towers, but what happens if I go give grit and hustle and now you have a successful first franchisee?
Yeah, we definitely have gone through some growth issues. And that's just the way it is. I'm fully transparent with it. We had 2 franchise territories that I did a poor job of bringing them on. It's not on them. We thought they were going to be a good fit. Everything looked good, and it just wasn't. They had too much of their own stuff going on. They couldn't dedicate enough time. I learned right away. Initially, DocuLock was kind of viewed as a semi-absentee. And then we realized really quickly that's not the case. You absolutely have to have somebody in place. If not the owner, then at least a general manager of some sort. And I didn't force that, and I paid the price for it. And so moving forward, again, it's all about learning and adapting to it.
Do you guys have an item 19?
We do. We
what
do.
are you disclosing in that?
We basically go off of, that's a real tricky one. That item 19 will get you. We decided to go off of our average box fee because we don't charge per page, except in rare cases. We charge via box. So a banker's box, roughly $200 is the average going rate for one of those. And so we took that and we just really divided that out across what the total sales were. And it came to last year, I'd have to double check. So please look before you quote me on this. I want to say we were 3,000 some odd boxes. It's a lot of paper, a lot of paper.
That was for you're disclosing the corporate location?
That's actually for all of our locations added together. Okay. Yep.
Have you started looking at supplementary things once you've acquired a customer? You're giving them a service. Is your brain going towards what else can we give them?
Well, we've already gone down that road on the shred side. Now, kind of funny story there is for the first 2.5, 3 years, I refused. I would not shred anything. And finally, my clients, especially the bigger ones, are like, look, we already trust you with our documents. Can you please get rid of them for us at the end of the day? Because I was bringing them back saying, here you go. And they're like, nah, we don't want those back. And so we started to do, we partner with a company called ProShred, which is another franchise. Awesome people. And right now it's more of a regional one with our Kansas City locations. But we put out shred bins at our client side. So there's additional revenue streams there. Keeps us stickier with them. That's really the first thing we did. Now there's some other things that are kind of being developed right now. They're a little hush-hush still. Yeah. But I've got some other things on the horizon that will allow us to better serve our clients even longer. Our retention rate, and I'm very proud of this, and this is not just on me, this is on everyone that's ever worn that shirt, is 96% retention. I mean, people just keep coming back.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like the shredding's interesting. My wife is a CPA. Hopefully she doesn't watch this, but I'm going to say the shredding boxes, we had one in our home and one in our office. Yep. I'm like, there's barely anything in here. I was like, this is like a gym membership. Like you want to throw all your shred stuff in there. It still ends up in the garbage. So I'm like, yeah. This is good business. It's an interesting supplemental income, right?
It is. And the funny part is, we have some clients like you and your wife where it's just a little bit in there. It's like the newspaper went in there or something. Newspaper, what the heck's that, right? But we have some clients that, man, they utilize every penny of that contract. I've got half their household paperwork in there as well. I mean, I'm lugging this thing out with a hand truck to get it out of there. So it's a mix of everything, and it's all good. I mean, we charge a flat fee. We don't ever go after people for additional fees, and it's just the way it is. I don't play that game.
Eventually, will you disclose what your first franchisee is doing on an annual basis? Like, will you break it out that way in item 19?
Yeah. So that's the killer part for us is our very first franchisee. Actually, we bought her back or her territory back and her business actually, because she had some health issues. Mm-hmm. And, I had two choices. I could stick her with that contract. I don't think I strike you as the guy that does that, or I go after her and say, what can we do to help out? And so we took that back. Now, if we took those numbers for that first one, they would be extremely good. You know, that's probably one of our biggest challenges is because we're babies in the system and we're just trying to get those numbers built up on there. And then of course the 2 locations that we folded back in, you know, that threw our numbers off badly, our average earnings per location. So again, don't blame anybody except myself on that. That's a learning experience. So I think our biggest thing that we can bring to the table really warm in here, that we bring to the table for any franchisee, and this is a question and I don't understand why, I never really hear anybody ask this, is how do I get my customers? Where are they going to come from? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy into the system. I'm going to spend all this money and everything's great. But where do my customers come from? We have a in-depth lead generation system that starts the minute they sign their FA. Literally, the minute that ink is not even dry yet, and I turn on, we have basically 3 tiers of lead generation. That first one gets turned on. That's an automated system company we work with. And then I'm in the process of building out our second tier, which is actually boots on the ground, 1099 contractor sales reps across the entire country. I just signed another one down in Charlotte, and I've got one in kind of close by in Independence that we're hopefully going to be signing on soon. And then I spoke to another one that is based out of Florida. So we'll see how that one goes. But the cool part about it is the leads that they bring in actually go to the closest franchise location as leads. So I'm excited about it.
I mean, my 2 cents actually before I give it, out of the $87,000 startup fee, what is your franchise fee?
$49,500.
And I assume it's that because you're going to need some volume to pay for brokers if you go down that route.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would do, and this is the back of the napkin comment. One is we talked about grit and hustle. We talked about we have a high performer who came in but probably couldn't have afforded taking on more debt coming out of college. So we have that insight. 49,500. If you go back to me and you, if we take our stories, we don't have that to start.
No.
So now the 2 people that could actually perform are rejected because we can't come up with 49.5. In my opinion, 49.5, and it's part of engineering the right territory size to have the volume that you need to do. But it's like, how do we almost triple the size and the volume and the speed? And now if it's going to stay at that amount, how do we deploy more of that into marketing? Because at the end of the day, that means about $30,000 is going into the franchisee onboarding, and majority is going back into fees, of which some is being paid to the broker network. If it's me, I'm re-looking at that thing and saying, I don't know that brokers are the right fit. Brokers make sense because they're capturing people that say, here's how much money I have, what can I buy? But it's also it's a dangerous swing because you're looking for grit and hustle, and right now you're eliminating it. So if you eliminated the brokers, took that $30,000 off, had a 19.5 franchise fee, allowed people to get in, they still have to put some skin in the game, show them the pathway of how you're going to scale this to 3 units fast, and even if there was a payment plan on the rest of the territory, there's a way to engineer that, you know.
We actually do have a payment plan in place. And in regards to the broker side of that, I had to account for the brokers. That doesn't corner me on how I can approach other individuals. There's a gentleman I'm talking to right now that came from organic lead efforts, i.e. me. Yeah. And you know, it's a totally different situation there. And I agree, the grit and hustle, that's what that person brings to the table. You know, so basically my reply back to him just 2 days ago was, he's like, man, I'm trying to find the money to do this. My reply was, what do you bring to the table now? What can we work with? What can we help you with to build this out? You know, ultimately the goal is to get these folks out there, to grab that market share, lock them into that area so they can just start crushing it for themselves. You know, very similar to the active locations we have right now. They're doing great.
I'll give you one last comment because I'm thinking about this as it relates to your business.
Yes, sir.
You know how to pull a kid out of college, give them the tools. If you look at, like, for what it is, college pro painters or whatever it's called, what they did is basically say no franchise fee. In essence, rather than hiring kids for the summer, you're saying you own your own business. You're signing a franchise agreement, and you're going out there and you're working, and then obviously you're keeping a portion of it. I just talked with a franchisor now who started their accidental fall into franchising through college pro painters. But it's a fascinating thing, and it's almost like you already know. Don't let the franchise fee be the hurdle.
Right.
And your conversation with this next candidate was, well, what do you bring to the table now? And so you know it, and your business is conditioned for it. And I know that you know that you're trying not to let the tail wag the dog, but I think you have something here. If you said, screw the brokers, that's not the system we're going to use. Here's how we can do this organically, and here's how we can go and create entrepreneurs. I like some of those fundamentals. I would put them to play for what it's worth.
No, I really appreciate that. No, that's a great insight. And I agree with you on the franchise development website. I'll be honest, I think I paid way more than I should have for it. I mean, I like it. It's pretty, but pretty doesn't pay the bills. I mean, look at this. That doesn't pay the bills. So no, it definitely needs some refinement. And I'm taking that to heart. I will rewatch this and see exactly what I said, because I'm babbling away here. But no, I appreciate the insight. I really do.
So typically, well, I'll still ask the question. I usually ask anything else you want a candidate to know if they've watched this video, but I have one other follow-up ending question.
Sure.
But answer that one first. Anything else you want the candidate to know?
You know, we want to welcome anyone and everyone into the system that is excited about, doing what we do. Now, this is important. You have to be able to sell. You have to be able to be outgoing. You have to be able to go to events. You have to be able to respond to leads that our team sends you in a timely manner. Those are deal killers for me. You could come to the table with $1 million and want to buy an entire state. But if you can't do that part, or don't have the ability to bring somebody in that can, we're not going to be successful. And I say we are not going to be successful. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned from this. I don't want to ever set somebody up for failure. That's just not the way I do business.
Well, there's your other insight. Go take those W-9 salespeople that you're going to have sell for you and say, we'll waive the franchise fee for you. Just be our franchisee. I mean, you know they're selling.
There might be something there, Nick. I can't let the cat out of the bag on all this. Okay, we're working on this.
Good. All right, let me close on this. So you go through this heart thing, unexpected. You have to deal with this. Did that ultimately just change your perspective on life, and does that change the way that you're approaching everything?
Yes, absolutely. I've always thought I was an okay guy. I mean, we all have our issues, whatever. But what I realized is I was talking a lot, but I wasn't walking that. I wasn't backing that up at all. And I was saying, hey, I want to help this person and that person. Was I really? And that time off gave me time to maybe look too deep on some areas. But I realized that there's a lot of people out there like me that were entrepreneurs forever. I know I can do this, but that fear of failure and everything else, how do I take a lot of that away and allow them the chance to run and do great on it? I mean, the very first franchisee we got from the university partnership, he's an awesome young man. I mean, he is just sharp as a tack. But his fear was, I don't really know how to sell, but he's outgoing. So we were able to mold that into what best worked for him. And now he's off to the races. I just send him leads and he takes care of business, and it's awesome.
Look, I love the base. I think the foundational elements are there. You obviously have a North Star on the personal side that will guide you on how to treat other people, which I think is deeply valuable. A lot of people don't get the silver lining from a moment like that. And I appreciate you sharing some of your story with us, Paul.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time, Nick.
For Paul, I'm Nick. That was another episode of Meet the Zor.